No meeting, no webinars can be accomplished without the active participation of the industry leaders, industry partners. Today we have got Segment. Mr. Alok Avasthi is with us. He is the founder of Segment at a which is a global tele medicine company, and which is need of the hour. And this is they actually provide the patients to take control of their medical decision. We will keep our finger crossed. If the time permits, we will try to have audience with him also. Now, setting the context of today, we have Mr. Vipin Kharbanda, who is the known person in the media fraternity. And then we will have the uninterrupted flow. Before starting of the webinar, I have promised all the three panelists, doctor professionals, that we will not interrupt you when you take over the flow. Before that's the reason. Before that, we will finish all interaction and intercases, and so that we can have an interrupt-free flow from Dr. Claire, Dr. Jam, and Dr. Sarna. So now, the first we would like to know, because we are all working and busy in our own environment, and we need to know what is the perception outside. And to get the perception from outside, we need somebody who is always with the public. And Vipin Kharbanda is one person that who is always with the public. He is not only because of working, coming in the media, but he is a social activist by itself. He is vice president Divya Himachal Media Group, and also he is the vice president of Delhi Advertisement Club. And Mr. Vipin Kharbanda holds over 3 decades of wide media industry expertise. And you name any paper, a popular paper, he has worked. He has worked both in the print, Tribune, Nayi Duniya, Pioneer, Statesman, Big FM, which I remember some time back was very popular for cinema audio and video presentation. And then Divya Himachal, of course, is a media group, and he himself is a hardcore social worker and most invited personality for mega public events. So that gives us a confidence that he has the pulse of the market. And on the top of it, Divya Himachal Media Group is the leading media group of Himachal Pradesh, with a 360-degree group with the print, TV, and news portal of their own. And they are popular among the youth and intellectual property events. So, role of media in general and social media in particular becomes important in pandemic situations. And there are issues: mask or no mask, authentic information or fake information, resourceful information versus fear factor. Fear could be of trauma level also, and then there is a fear of economic factor. So some of the critical issues we will expect from Mr. Vipin, that he will throw light on that. And above all, Mr. Vipin is an awarded personality, and I shared one award with him when recently we were at the PRCI functions. So that way he can give us a good insight into that. And then we will come to other galaxy of speakers we have got. And over to Vipinji. I am stopping the screen share here. Over to Vipinji. So now, Vipin, you please help us in understanding the perspective of the outside world. So you have been talking and dealing with the people, so that the panel will then, apart from their own store, he will concentrate on your view also. Right. Over to Vipinji.
Thank you very much, Babaji and Hariom Welfare Society, for giving me an opportunity to present a report on public perception in COVID-19 pandemic. Public perceptions are not easy to gauge and measure, even though I have tried to summarize to my best in my report. Many senior professional doctors are here to speak on coping with physical and mental health in post-COVID era. I will not take too much of time, keeping in mind the time management. I have prepared a report on basically on 4 factors: awareness, fear factor, reality, and role of media, and taken some experts from the media coverage also. So COVID-19, belonging to the group of coronavirus, has risen to power like a silent killer. This tiny particle has created havoc like no terrorist group or natural calamity in history. COVID-19 started from one city of China in December 2019, but in a short span of time, it covered almost all over the world. Nearly 216 countries of the world are struggling for their civilization and livelihood against the coronavirus pandemic. On January 11, 2020, China declared first death of their 61 years old citizen due to COVID-19. On February 11, 2020, WHO announced this coronavirus as COVID-19 and pandemic on March 11, 20, after reaching the virus infection to 114 countries across the world. India's first case of corona was reported on 30th January 2020. To prevent the infection socially, lockdown was imposed globally. At the start, we didn't realize what has hit us. By the time we did, it had hit us quite hard. On 22nd March, India observed a 14-hour voluntary public curfew followed by mandatory lockdown in COVID-19 hotspots in major cities. On 24th March, Honorable Prime Minister ordered a nationwide lockdown for 21 days. On 14th April, lockdown extended till 3rd May 2020, followed by 2 weeks extension, 3rd May and 17th May 20, with substantial relaxations. From 1st June, government started unlocking the country. Before lockdown, there was a lack of awareness among people. During the time of lockdown, people started getting panicked, emotionally unsecured, depressed, and in a state of confusion, unaware about the facilities provided by the government. It resulted in a fear factor. Recently, on 20th of October 2020, our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji said, despite the lockdown having been lifted, it does not mean that the coronavirus is wiped out. The Prime Minister noted that the recovery rate in the country has improved and the fatality rate is low. Shri Modi stated that for every 10 lakh citizens, about 5,500 infected with corona, while in countries like the US and Brazil, the figure is nearly 25,000. He said that the death rate in India is 83 for every 10 lakh citizens, whereas in developed countries like the US, Brazil, Spain, Britain, and many other countries, it is about 600. The Prime Minister appreciated that in comparison to many developed nations, India is getting successful in protecting many lives of its citizens in the country. But the harsh truth is that people are hiding their illness and showing their unwillingness to approach hospitals. People are taking coronavirus as a social stigma. Many celebrities, sports persons, media persons, politicians, and other responsible citizens are trying to create awareness and change the attitude of public. People are not adhering to precautions such as using of face masks, social distancing, and hand hygiene. There is an adverse impact on our mental as well as physical health. Being cooped up indoors, coupled with anxieties and uncertainties associated with what is going on related to the future. Every day, family members and friends of COVID patients are tapping into all their contacts honestly, hoping to find a recovered person who is willing to donate plasma. Convalescent plasma therapy is one of the options explored to save some patients. People are coming forward to donate plasma and some think it's very risky for their health. I know one person, Mr. Sunil Masta, who is a regular blood donor for last 37 years and has donated plasma 7 times after recovery from COVID till date and is still healthy at the age of 54 years. And last time he has donated plasma, that was on 22nd of October 2020. As the COVID-19 has become a global pandemic, there are numerous myths arising in society and floating on social media that do more harm than good, as instead of helping out. They cause stress and panic among the general public. Hence, it is of utmost importance to know the real facts which are actually helpful and effective against COVID-19 rather than just believing random rumors. To put some popular rumors to rest and outline facts and authentic information, I have herein curated a list of myths as per WHO guidelines along with a scientific explanation. Myth: the coronavirus remains in the throat for 4 days, causing sore throat and coughing before it reaches the lungs. Drinking a lot of water and gargling with warm water and salt or vinegar eliminates the virus. And the reality is, while it is true that the coronavirus can cause a sore throat and gargling with warm water may make it feel better, it has no direct effect on the virus. Myth 2. Children are immune to the coronavirus. But the fact is, a study shows that the children are being infected in the same distribution as other age groups. They are just not symptomatic, or they are just have minimal symptoms. Myth: you can boost your immune system and lower your risk of getting COVID-19 by eating sweet potatoes and taking certain vitamins and supplements. But the reality is, there is no evidence that you can boost your immune system by eating sweet potatoes, taking specific vitamins or supplements. Myth: you can avoid the virus by drinking warm water every 15 minutes. But the hard truth is, this kind of meme is going around the internet. There's also a claim that if people drink cold water, their lungs will become fibrotic, but there is no evidence at all to support these claims. Next myth: being able to hold your breath for 10 seconds or more without coughing or feeling discomfort means you are free from COVID 19. But the reality is, the most common symptoms of COVID 19 are dry cough, tiredness, fever. Some people may develop more severe forms of the disease, such as pneumonia. The best way to confirm if you have the virus producing COVID 19 disease is with a laboratory test. You cannot confirm it with this breathing exercise, which can even be dangerous. There are some alarming threats as per the media reports. India may see an exponential increase of 26 lakh cases in a month because of the festival season if precautions are not followed. A second wave of coronavirus can't be ruled out in the winter. Only 30% of the population has developed immunity so far. Local lockdowns are not effective now, but had there been no lockdown in March, April, India total deaths could have exceeded 25 lakhs in August 2020. The death toll now stands at 1.14 lakhs. These figures are as of date 19th October. The crisis is likely to be over by February 2021. By that time, there could be 10.5 million cases. India reached the peak of COVID-19 in September 2020 and is now on the downward slope. We have to be careful in the coming months also because of the pollution on North India. According to Oxford Vaccine Trial Team, face masks and social distancing will be needed until the next summer till July 2021. Professor Andrew Pollard warned that strict rules would have to be followed even if global vaccine tests proved successful. Small gatherings are now super spreaders. With almost all the restrictions gone, people are throwing parties, meeting at restaurants, and attending weddings. Most of those testing positive now have either attended a wedding or a funeral. As per the corporation officials, 15 minutes exposure to an infected person can be dangerous. Self-awareness is the only way people can avoid new clusters. Media is known for authentic news. Media is and has been playing very vital role to keep people motivated. Journalists during Corona not only had to guard themselves against the virus, but misinformation too, and also to keep people motivated. They were continuously visiting containment areas to get the true news, join hands with the government to request to people to stay at home. COVID-19 is new, so different views and opinions. Journalists and media organizations, with the help of WHO and respective health departments, did their utmost to keep up to date with the outbreak using reliable information, spreading awareness by conducting debates of professionals and experts, by using electronic media platform and through editorials and news in print and digital media. Superstar Shah Rukh Khan had posted a song titled Sab Sahi Ho Jayega from his Twitter handle, sending out positivity and hope to everyone during the lockdown. The song was sung by superstar Shah Rukh Khan himself. So lockdown भले चला गया हो, पर वायरस अभी बाकी है दोस्तों. So wash your hands, wear mask, maintain social distancing, stay safe, take care. Thank you very much. Thank you, Babaji, for giving me an opportunity to talk on this board.
Thank you, Vipanji. That is the advantage of discussing with the media person, because घर बैठे ही गागर में सागर वाला हिसाब हो जाता है. सारी बार की खबर आपने एक ही बारी में सबको दे दी. Now it has become really challenging. If you permit, I would like to have one punchline, one small statement from Sunil Masta, because he has been donating plasma very consistently, and he is a very brave corona warrior. And he's some myths, some conceptions. Please, Masari, if you just take 2 minutes to speak on this, and after that we will straight go to Dr. Claire. Right? So just take 2 minutes. In between, we will have a talk with you again. Please over to Sunil Masari.
सर अभी मैं तो जितने लोगों को गाइड करता हूँ ना, तो एक वर्ड यूज करता हूँ मैं। मुझे ट्रैवलिंग का बहुत शौक है, तो रोड साइन एक होता है कि सावधानी हटी दुर्घटना घटी। तो ये आज की डेट में कोरोना के केस में बहुत लागू हो रहा है। मास्किंग या डिस्टेंस में कहीं भी हमारी सावधानी हटी तो दुर्घटना घटी। तो अभी, और ये जो अभी विपिन जी ने 15 मिनट का जो हमारा एक्सपोजर का बात बताया था, आज लेटेस्ट आया है कि 15 मिनट क्यूमुलेटिव है। अगर आप किसी से मतलब पार्टी में मिल रहे हैं, अगर आप 5 इन्फेक्टेड लोगों से मिले और आप सोचते हैं कि मैं तो 5-5 मिनट ही मिला हूं, तो वो क्यूमुलेटिव हमारा ज्यादा टाइम हो जाता है। तो वो भी एक नई लेटेस्ट आज की डेट में आई है रिपोर्ट। तो क्यूमुलेटिव, ये 15 मिनट क्यूमुलेटिव है। तो अभी इस बारे में डॉक्टर्स को मेरे ख्याल में और ज्यादा ध्यान देना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि वो पेशेंट्स को देख रहे हैं। तो अभी तक पेशेंट्स को वो सोच रहे थे कि भाई मैं एक पेशेंट को 5 मिनट से ज्यादा टाइम देता ही नहीं हूँ, तो मैं सेफ हूँ। लेकिन अभी आज की जो नई गाइडलाइंस आई हैं, उसके हिसाब से तो हमारे ये लोग भी काफी खतरे में हैं, और नया कोई तरीका देखना पड़ेगा कि अपने आप को एक्सपोजर से बचाने के लिए।
ठीक है, right. We will thank you. We will come back to you. And the very purpose that I wanted that you address this, then we come up front, right? So now we will start with our main session, and we are very proud that we are having a one-to-one session with Dr. Sarlochhan Singh Claire. And when we were giving information about this program, there was a big response, and everybody was really keen to listen him. And all responses because of his presence over here. Dr. T.S. Claire, he's an MD, DM cardiology, and he has got the Padma Bhushan awardee and Visit Chikitsa Ratan Award. And he is the chairman of PSRI, everybody aware. And the top of it that he believes in developing a skill, and he has trained multiple hands with his own skill. And as on date, he has got over 150 publications. He has trained 200 other cardiologists, and he is president of HRSI, Heart Rhythm Society of India. And he is in a hardcore, helpful attitude towards society at large. He has served as technical advisor to numerous organizations. His passion includes to work for affordable prices so far as health in general and heart in particular is concerned. And we wish him all the success. Over to Dr.
Saab. Good evening, Doctor. First of all, Baba, thank you, Baba Saab and Vipin Ji for inviting me to this rather very, very important webinar. See, one thing good which has happened because of this corona pandemic is that the people in general, they have started thinking of health. In our country, health was never a priority with the common man. So they will never bother what is happening to their health. And I always say to everybody, wherever I go, wherever I talk, that in life there are 3 things important. And those 3 things are number 1 is health, number 2 is health, and number 3 is health. Actually, there is nothing more important. I go to the extent of saying that neither your wife, nor your husband, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your teacher, nor your students are important when it comes to the question of health. अगर health नहीं है तो मंदिर में जाके भी पूजा नहीं कर सकते, गुरुद्वारे में जाने का मन नहीं करता. So that is the kind of philosophy our society has to apply from the time the child becomes conscious enough to understand life. That means this training should start from schools, whether we say primary school or 6th class or 8th class or 10th class, there should be a proper curriculum of health education in schools, which is lacking in our country so far. Number one. Number two, there is no teaching in our country that we need to do some kind of regular health checkups, even if we don't have a problem. So, all of us, particularly anybody who's more than 30, 35 years of age, once a year, some blood sugar testing, some cholesterol testing, some ECG. There are minimum investigations which should be done once a year so that we can detect the disease early and we can apply preventive, policies to limit the disease or to postpone the disease. Just to give you a small example, that we have now three major killers in India. They are diabetes, hypertension, and heart disease. And they are all lifestyle diseases. If we can change the lifestyle of people, a lot of this is preventable. Coming to the just diabetes, that if everybody achieves ideal body weight, if you are diabetic and you achieve a ideal body weight, which is height in centimeters minus 100, 50% of the people with diabetes will become non-diabetic, and the remaining 50%, their need for drugs will become 1/3. So that is the impact of lifestyle modification. Now, I want to go more into the COVID because today's webinar is meant for COVID. Please, Neelu, can you please? So, COVID has taught us, it has given many challenges. It has given many nightmares. It has given many worries, and it has given many things to learn also. I always say when there is a adversity, there is a opportunity. People, it has united people in the hour of crisis. There have been so many suicides. People have lost jobs. Millions of people have lost jobs. Economy has gone to, really bad situation. And I guess, there is no data in India. I think more people have died because of hunger rather than because of corona. All the health workers, the daily wagers, I really don't know how they and their families have survived. Now, coming to the question of health, I have a strong belief that any government of any country should at least do two things. Free to every citizen of the country. They should provide health and they should provide education. The government should not be running Air India. It's not their job to run Air India. The government job is to give health and education to people. If you give education to people, the rest of the things will automatically fall. Believe me, Baba Sahib and Bipin Sahib, that there can be a possibility of providing health to everybody in this country, even for a country like India. I mean, there is a possibility you develop. There should be a mandatory insurance for everybody. People who can't pay, the government should pay, the employer should pay, and there are possibilities. So, because this is less time, so I don't want to discuss that. Now, coming to the COVID and its cardiovascular manifestation, it is two ways. People who have heart disease, significant heart disease, blood pressure, diabetes, heart failure, जिनकी bypass surgery हो चुकी है, जिनकी angioplasty हो चुकी है, these people are certainly more likely to get infection. That's one. Number two, if you have a cardiovascular disease, the chances of mortality are more. In fact, in a multivariate analysis of multiple comorbidities, it was shown clearly that the cardiovascular comorbidity is the worst. If you have a cardiovascular disease, the chances of dying are more. So it came even above the respiratory illness. Though we say somebody is a smoker, somebody has a obstructive wave disease, but cardiovascular comorbidity is very, very important. So people with heart disease, people who have been gone through angioplasty, they have to be very, very careful. They should be absolutely careful not to take it lightly. And the three principles somebody told already: distancing, wearing a mask, and hand hygiene. At least three major things they should do very clearly. They should not go out of the home until and unless it is a must. And if they go, they should be careful, number one. Number two, it is the other way around. That COVID, if you get COVID, there are so many cardiovascular manifestations. No, they are important. Almost 15% people developing COVID, they will have some kind of cardiovascular manifestation. And the manifestations are, they can present like a heart attack. It could be a true heart attack. True means when we do their angiography, उनकी एक नाड़ी totally बंद मिलती है. Now, why they get more chance of heart attack? Because COVID की वजह से there is more chance of blood clot formation in the system. So they can develop a heart attack even from a minor blockage like 50 or 60%. That's number one. Number two, some people will come with chest pain. Changes are like a heart attack, but if you do their angiography, there is no blockage in the coronary angiography. That is called pseudo heart attack. Those changes are because of the myocarditis, the virus affecting the heart muscle. So presenting as an acute heart attack, number one. Number two, they can present like some kind of rhythm problem. Heart rate slow ho jana, heart rate irregular ho jana. Tachycardia is very common. You know, people have tachycardia when they have a COVID infection. And in some of the cases, severe people who are admitted to CCUs or who have been on a ventilator, they can develop cardiac arrest, ventricular fibrillation, and they can die because of that. And another thing is that some people got better. They were very well. They were going to be discharged, then they had a sudden cardiac death. That also is because of certain cardiac arrhythmias the COVID can do. The COVID makes the blood thicker and the chance of clotting are more. The clotting becomes more in the leg veins. And if there is a clot in the leg vein, that can go to lungs and cause pulmonary embolism. It's also a bad disease. So the coagulability of blood increases. So you have more chance of venous thrombosis. You have more chance of those clots moving to the lungs. And that's why when people get COVID, we need to do some investigation like CRP. D-dimer particularly is very important. If D-dimer is very high, significantly high, we need to put these patients on some blood thinning drug like heparin or things of that nature. There are some patients who come, and even young people, they will come and present like a heart failure. Their pumping capacity of the heart goes down. This also is because of the inflammation, because of the virus, and they can develop cardiogenic shock. In fact, some of the patients have to be saved in a very, very difficult situation. We have to put them on what is called as ECMO. ECMO is a machine where we take blood from the femoral vein, and there is a machine which gives oxygen to that blood and be sent back to the system. So it's called veno ECMO. And if the heart is also involved, sometimes we have to do much more elaborate ECMO, which is called the veno arterial blood exchange. So this is a very, very difficult kind of scenario where the COVID can cause a lot of morbidity and mortality as far as the cardiovascular system is concerned, and people have to be careful about that. In general, let me advise you that if somebody has a COVID, if he has no symptoms or mild symptoms, there is no need of admission. There should be pulse ox at home. Keep on measuring the pulse ox. अगर आपकी oxygen saturation 93% से ज़्यादा है, there is no need of panicking. So you don't need to be admitted. But if it is consistently below 93, then these patients should be admitted, because sometimes the progression of the disease can be very fast, and they can go into respiratory failure very fast. Below 93, yes, I will very strongly recommend that they should be admitted to the hospital. दूसरी चीजें ये हैं कि कोविड की वजह से बहुत फियर कंपोनेंट है लोगों के बीच में, नहीं होना चाहिए. They should be decreased. They should be addressed by the society, by the doctors, and a good support to each other is very, very important. Like in our colony, we had made a group, so-called support group by doctors, and we were available to each and every citizen of our colony. to help them anytime they could ask questions and answers, so that we can allay their fears that matter. I think because the time is less, I will rather stop, and I would rather be happy to answer the questions if there are any. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. Yes, you are really hit on the nail. The public perceptions have been very well taken care. I am very happy that you brought the things in the right perspective in the very beginning. And we will continue. And then one or two questions have already started coming. We will wait for more questions so that we can answer together. And meanwhile, I will request everybody among the attendees that they should answer they should raise the questions in the Q&A box only. And now I move to another panelist, Dr. Rajat Jam, who is MD, FICP, FACP, FACM with the professional degrees. He's a professor of medicine, University College of Medical Sciences at GTB Hospital, Delhi. And he too has been awarded for his meritorious works in various platforms and various bodies, and in particular for his infectious diseases. And he is the fittest person to talk for today on today's talk. And again, he is well published and heard at the national and international forum, multiple publications at his disposal, and he is a fellowship of numerous bodies and institutions. After that, we will have a session from Dr. Sanjeev Sarnaji. Sanjeev Sarnaji is a spiritual traveler and healer. And above all, he's an Ayurvedic healer, and he has a multifarious activities, and he has a passion for astrology, and he has voluntarily counseled and served innumerable people for all walks of life. And then he runs his own NGOs, and he above all, he's an Ayurveda doctor, and he's a holistic healer. So we will have a talk from him also after the talk from Rajat Jamji. Before moving further, I would request what you call Alokji to dwell upon the latest trends which are coming in the industry, and then we will carry forward with the talk from the Dr. Jamji. Over to you, Alokji.
Yeah, thank you, Babaji. Thank you for this opportunity. So I'll just quickly introduce SeqMed to the audience here. It's a global telemedicine platform that connects patients from around the world with India's award-winning super specialist. It's a platform that brings the best in medicine and the best in technology together, so that we can empower our patients and so that they can take better control of their medical decisions. You talked about the trends. I think the biggest trend that we have seen as a result of pandemic, not just in India, but everywhere, is the broad adoption of technology. People by and large, especially from outside metro areas, they've been very reluctant to leverage this way of consulting with doctors, people especially living in remote parts. So they've been very forthcoming and open. Government has eased regulatory restrictions around telemedicine. Even hospitals have opened up and large clinics have opened up, who have traditionally not invested in digital healthcare. They are investing in a big way. Corporates are opening up and they are looking at telemedicine to benefit their employees. So these are some of the most obvious trends that we are seeing. And this trend is going to go. I think this is, we have started on an irreversible trend. I don't think we are going to go back to the old ways of getting healthcare. And of course, I mean, when it is necessary, then the patients have to travel all the way wherever possible. But as much as possible, if they can avoid the hassle that is associated with long distance travel, then they can avail the technology benefits. I'll very quickly touch upon, Dr. Clay talked about the health education. So one aspect is the school-going kids. The other aspect is our patient community. And I'm happy to announce that SeqMed has recently launched India's largest health library. And if patients have any question on any medical condition that they can think of from head to toe, they can visit our library. The healthcare content on any test, any procedure, the content which is focused on patient education has been reviewed by some of the best doctors in US. And it also has more than 33,000 medicines and all the details. So it's, again, another way to empower patients, not just in making it possible, easier to connect with our top doctors, award-winning doctors. And I'm honored to have Dr. Claire as one of our doctors. And we have many other doctors of national and international repute on our platform. So with that, I wish everyone success and happy Navratri and happy Dussehra.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lokji.
Yeah.
Over to Dr. Rajat Jamji. Over to you, Dr. Saab.
Thank you, Mr. J.S. Baba, for giving a kind introduction to me. I shall be covering the psychological and mental effects of COVID. As we are all knowing that it is having, the COVID is having effects on our physical health. But if we go at present, the focus of the states is on controlling and mitigating the impact of pandemic by identifying and testing the disease patient and developing vaccination and drugs and treatment protocols. But as we know that COVID has multi-sphere effect, not only on physical health and healthcare, but also mental health, economy, industries, agriculture, and global market, etc. So the worldwide associations are really concerned about the coronavirus 2019 and its long-term impact on mental health of people. Even WHO has expressed its concern over the pandemic's mental health and psychosocial consequences in a lot of advisories issued from time to time. So this discussion is quite pertinent because after we have come over the effects of COVID-19 on health, we will have its long-term effects on the mental status of the patients. So these are the advisories which has been given by WHO at various times, making it the mental health as the foremost topic after physical challenges of COVID are over. It has been seen that new measures such as self-isolation and quarantine have affected usual activities and routines and livelihoods of people that lead to an increase in loneliness, anxiety, depression, insomnia, and harmful alcohol and drug use, and self-harm or suicidal behavior. This is also, the lockdowns around the world have also led to an increase in the cases of domestic violence, where women and children who live with domestic violence also have no escape from their abusers during quarantine. Not only adults, but even children have been affected by the lockdown and at a risk of mental problems arising due to the scare of the disease, lockdown, and ignorance and rumors about the disease. The lack of physical activity, loss of communication among their peers, online classes, and being locked down leads to increase in stress and anxiety apart from the poor physical health. So these all have an effect even on children also. So we have to be very careful about the future development, mental development of the children. So this was the advisory from WHO. We are helping children cope with stress during 2019 outbreak. And also the recent study by the Indian Psychiatric Society shows a 20% increase in the mental illness since the coronavirus outbreak in India. So there's a 20% surge of the medical illness. As well as physical illness like heart disease, Dr. Claire has touched, we have to be careful about the mental illness, and this mental illness have long-term effect on the well-being of a human being. Psychologists and mental health professionals speculate that the pandemic is going to impact on the mental health of the population globally, with an increase in the case of depression and suicide and self-harm, apart from other symptoms reported globally due to COVID-19. So various studies have been there, which are going with the fact that the mental illness is going to be the major concern after we have dealt with the physical damage done by the COVID. As every individual has come out of their comfort zone during the pandemic, a person who was habitual to his or her routine is now bound to home, and to change the routine. And an office girl whose usually routine was to go and get ready and go office work for his office work and his colleague and then back to home is now homebound. Even housewife's routine has changed with her kids and husband at home. So, and not that only this, closing of the outlets selling alcohol led to withdrawal symptoms and suicides by alcohol addicts as reported in states in Kerala in India. Overemphasis on consistent hand washing. This is very important. For 20 seconds, affect a significant population group considering they are not aware how much time they have to wash the hands, how much how frequently they have to wash the hands. In such scenario, there is increased chances of developing neurotic disorders such as generalized anxiety disorders and obsessive compulsive disorder, in which the patient is obsessed with washing the hands. He overdoes the things, and if he doesn't do that thing, he becomes anxious and he has a panic attack. So this all the information from the media, which has all the information which is going, how well it is taken by the people is very important. We know that we have to wash the hands, but how often, how frequently, and this is causing patient overdoing it, using sanitizer more frequently, and then developing skin diseases. Same is with the frequent washing of the hands. So, do you have the obsessive compulsive corona disorder? So this is the article which was published in Times of India, where it was seen that the patient are so obsessed with their washing hands that if they don't wash it, they are basically going into a neurotic disorder known as obsessive compulsive disorder. Also, apart from this, the recent days have seen a sharpest economic pullback in modern history and record-breaking spike in unemployment. So it is inevitable that the global pandemic, compounded by financial crisis, will have a material impact on the behavioral health of society. This was also seen when there was a global financial crisis in 2007 and 8, and in 2008, the Great Recession ushered in a 13% increase in suicides attributable to the unemployment, with over 46,000 lives lost due to unemployment and economic inequality in that year alone. So, Corona does not have the effects as such. It has effects due to the economic slowdown also. So, we have to be careful about that also. And this is not all. This is not the end. Even after getting the Corona, the stigma still remains. Stigma in the form of the social stigma, that there's media and everything is so have made people so scared that he has a corona, he has been infected by corona, like he has become an untouchable. So that plus the corona after even heals, we are seeing that there are some changes which remains in the lungs of the patient, and the patient may have a residual damage like lung fibrosis and bronchiectasis. So the patient usually have a double burden, the stigma for those who have been recovered from the virus plus residual damage. And this stigma begins right at your doorstep from the time the corporation authorities put a corona hotspot poster and a notice detailing the number of positive people in households. So this also have a great mental impact on the affected. Now, how to deal with the mental and psychological effects? There are many advisories which have been out recently by Mayo Clinic, by NIMHANS from India, there are papers also, and WHO also. So we all know that COVID-19 pandemic has likely brought many changes to how you live your life, and with it uncertainty, altered daily routines, financial pressures, and social isolation. You may worry about getting sick, how long the pandemic will last, whether you will lose your job, and what the future will bring. So all this lead to a mental fatigue and depression. And some people have increased for this. Some people increase their use of alcohol and drugs, thinking that can help with the fears about the pandemic. But in reality, these substances usually worsen the anxiety and depression. And also, the addictive persons are more prone to the harmful effects of COVID-19 as such also. So for all of these reasons, it's important to learn self-care strategies and get the care you need to cope up with the COVID-19 pandemic. So how to deal with the mental and psychological effects? Self-care strategies. These are the most important. Self-care strategies are good for your mental and physical health and can help you take charge of your life. Take care of your body and your mind and connect with others to benefit your mental health. get enough sleep, participate in regular physical activities, eat healthy, and avoid tobacco and alcohol and drugs. Why I've already told you, they're more damaging rather than having antidepressant effects. Then you have to reduce the stress triggers, keep your regular routine, relax and recharge, limit exposure to news media, and limit screen time. As Mr. Vipinji has told how there are rumors and myths going around. So the more you are onto the TV and social medias, you will get afraid and apprehensive and anxious. So in a paper recently published, COVID-19 misinformation is spreading in 25 different languages, leading to deaths and injuries. A study done and published in the American Journal of Tropical Medicine and Hygiene found. They analyzed all this news into the corona-related rumors, stigma, and conspiracy theories that were posted to the social media platforms, online, newspapers, and other websites between December 31 and April 5. And the rumor was defined as any unverified information that can be found to be true, fabricated, or entirely false after verification, could not be found to be true. Then stigma was related to discrimination or devaluation of a group, and conspiracy theory was defined as beliefs about an individual group or group of people working in a secret to reaching a malicious goal. And it was found that 89% of the news were rumors, 77.8% were conspiracy theories, and 3.5% were stigma. And most of the rumors, stigma, and conspiracy theories were identified from India, United States, China, Spain, Indonesia, Brazil. And some of the examples, like eggs are contaminated with coronavirus and drinking bleach may kill the virus, were rumors. Every disease has ever come from China was stigma, and it is a bioweapon fueled by pharma companies was a conspiracy theory. So all these have been analyzed. So better we have to stop the rumors, and rumors can mask themselves as credible infection prevention and control strategies and have potentially serious implications if prioritized over evidence-based guidelines. For example, a popular myth that consumption of highly concentrated alcohol could disinfect the body and kill the virus was circulating in different parts of the world. So we have to don't believe in all the news, social media posts, and decrease the screen time. And we have to be aware of the false experts which are going always there in the media. Then second thing is we have to take care of our mind. We have to stay busy. A distraction can get away from the cycle of negative thoughts that lead to anxiety and depression. Focus on positive thoughts. Choose to focus on the positive things in your life. Feel a sense of hope. Use your moral compass of spiritual life of sport. We should remember God didn't bring you this far to abandon you. And we have to set priorities. We have to imagine yourself from day one and just think about maybe 5 months from now rather than having a long-term goals. Then third is we have to connect with others. Though we are following social distancing doesn't mean emotional distancing. So we have to connect, we have to make connections. We can have always we have the now telecommunication, many apps are there to connect to the people, to connect to the family members. We have to do something for others and support a family member or friend rather than thinking social distancing as emotional distancing also. And then, even then, if you think that something is going wrong in your body, then you have to recognize what's typical and what's not, and get help when you need it. But continue your self-care strategies. So this is how we can deal with the mental and psychological stress which is coming due to COVID-19. The second topic is the behavior changes in post-COVID area. As Mr. Vipin Kharbanda, Dr. Claire has all talked about wearing the mask, social distancing, preventing overcrowding are all important. So, but how would a person react to the things which they have never done before? So, there is a growing realization that COVID-19 is here to stay and the lockdown cannot continue indefinitely. Experts predict that coronavirus may go off like SARS virus or keep recurring like a seasonal flu. Vaccines are under trial, but how soon and how effective they would be? As even the BCG vaccine, which is going on from maybe 25 years, still it has a effectivity from maybe to 0% to 80% in various studies, and same is with other vaccines also. And then human behavior is central to transmission of SARS-CoV-2 virus, and the virus that causes COVID-19, and the changing behavior is crucial to preventing transmission in the absence of pharmaceutical interventions. Isolation and social distancing are effective but has a huge economic implications. So we require lifestyle changes to cope up with COVID-19. As lockdown rules are phased out, the responsibility of practicing behaviors that stop the spread of the virus, such as social distancing or mask wearing, moves from the government to non-state institutions and individuals. But how to encourage people to adopt the new behaviors, many of which may involve personal sacrifice without getting any immediate direct rewards? So this is a pandemic and the challenge of behavior changes. So how we have to bring about the behavior changes is very important. Some of the recommendations of behavioral changes may even go against social and cultural conventions, motivating people to act otherwise with emotional messaging, using fear or shame will eventually lead to mental fatigue. This is made worse by the devastating economic consequences already discussed, imposing tremendous cognitive loads on people's minds. When someone is stressed about their financial situation, how will they have the bandwidth to think about protective behaviors? But this is also true that never before have we wanted to change behaviors in a such large scale and short time. So what can be done? So behavioral changes which are recommended are there, but we have barriers. As Mr. Vipin Kharbanda said, wear masks, maintain physical distance, wash or disinfect your hands. But how we are going to follow this? We have a behavioral change which is recommended. We only cough or sneeze into tissues and safely dispose of this. But how will the availability of these tissues will be taken care of, and how its disposal will be taken care of? Nobody knows. Nobody has ever thought about it. Then wearing masks as appropriate, very good. Availability is the also question. But our Prime Minister Ji, Modi Ji is stating that any clothes may be used as masks, increase the compliance. That's a good part. But who is going to monitor the compliance? And we usually see as the traffic rules being followed in India, only in front of authorities they may follow it. And the way the mask is worn, it is half worn, it is like more of an ornament rather than true mask. So people has to be taught how it is worn. It is not an ornament which is to show off the designs, but is how protective we can make it. It has to be snugly put on the nose and the mouth, and space should be left between the nose and the mask. And then we may have fines imposed it, but the fines are there for many of the rules which are made, but how many rules are followed, we all know. Then we have the third behavioral change which is required. We have to maintain the physical distance. Really in India, is it possible due to the overcrowding? You go to the poor people who are living in the jogis and the Janta flats. How will we ensuring that? We cannot go to their houses to see whether it is being maintained. So telling that these behavioral changes has to be done is very easy, but we have to actually see the barriers towards the inception of these changes. Then we say wash or disinfect hand under refined conditions. And how we are going to monitor this? How we are going to enforce it? This is a personal matter. We are not going to observe a patient inside, observe anybody into their house, whether they are washing their hands, how properly they are washing. And we say, and there are water deficit areas in India where there is no water for drinking. How we are going to make sure that their water is for maybe every hour if we are washing hands, how the water is going to be there in their houses. And then we say sanitizer, availability of sanitizer, who is going to have procure sanitizer for us. If you see a 600 ml bottle is costing 150 rupees, and that may not be feasible for maybe half of the Indians. So, and then there are things like overdoing this hand sanitization and hand washing, and this may also lead to OCD. So the more practical would be do not touch the T-zone unless one has thoroughly washed the hands. The T-zone is taken as eyes and nose and maybe some part of your mouth also. So if you just teach the people that you don't have to touch the T-zone of your hands, you face without thoroughly washing your hands, that may be more practical. Then social distancing and isolation of people who have symptoms. We are just saying that these behavioral changes are also required, but these are economical implications. And isolation of people who have symptoms. If the patient, as we have seen that they are not getting tested in the fear of getting quarantine, and no personal benefit they would get if they get quarantine, they may have economical constraints. And we all know that metro rules prohibits persons with influenza-like symptoms, but I have not seen anybody following this. So all these things, behavioral changes are recommended, but what usually are barriers towards is simply basically to follow them, we have to just see it. So we have to prioritize and apply principles of behavioral change. हमें ये देखना है कि कौन से हम जो हैं behavioral change एक्चुअली जो फिजिबल है और जो सस्टेनेबल है. फिजिबल में है हाँ जो लोग कर सकते हैं. जैसे अब मास्क के लिए हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी ने कह दिया सिर्फ आप कोई भी कपड़ा मास्क की तरह यूज कर सकते हैं. क्वाइट फिजिबल एंड सस्टेनेबल that maybe for next 24 months we are not going to have any maybe if the vaccine dwells, but this virus may persist maybe for many years or maybe minimum for 2 hours, so it has to be sustainable. And so evidence ने दिखाया कि social distancing and mask wearing are the two most critical behavior. So where social distancing is not possible, we should only talk about mask wearing, and any cloth can be used as mask wearing. So this will increase the compliance. And where social distancing is possible, we should talk about both. So we have to be practical, not just imposing fines would not do anything. That imposing fines would increase the compliance only in the front of thought is not always that we require to inhibit the virus. And then we have to apply the principles of behavioral change. So there are many principles where the behavioral change can be inculcated into the human beings, and that is one of the model is health belief model. That is, we all know that just publicizing something is not enough. Like we all know cigarette smoking is harmful for health, but this did not have any effect on the sales of the cigarette. So similarly, we should have the knowledge, but we should have the belief also, and we have to have perceived benefits and perceived barriers. The barriers which I have discussed, the obstacles to performing a recommended health action, and the effectiveness of actions available to reduce the threat of disease. So if we have these two things, the patient is the general public is more prone to follow these things and have a social behavior change in them. And then we have to have some cues to action, that is the triggers which set into motion the process of adopting the desired behaviors. Just an example, Janata curfew. Like our Prime Minister ji appeared to have been in the he's just called for a Janata curfew, and with a blend of fear, patriotism and gratitude, everyone followed it. That was a cue. That was a cue to action that motivated people. But what happened after that? After 5 p.m. all were just roaming into their colonies, just throwing social distancing to the winds. So we have to be clear कि जो हम एक आपको एक्शन में ला रहे हैं, that action has to go on, and there should be perceived benefits and perceived barriers, and these barriers has to be omitted to apply the principle of behavioral change to reduce SARS-CoV-2 transmission. So there should be motivation and perceived benefits and barriers. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. Thank you very much. I knew that you have come so well prepared, very focused to the point, and then there are a lot of questions and opinions raising, and then thank you. You are really capsuled the whole scenario into this presentation. And there are some requests to share the copy of the presentation. We will come back separately on that. And it was a lovely presentation. Yes, you rightly said, the virus is equally sustainable. We have to be very careful of this virus because it's going to sustain for long. And you rightly said, mask is not a fancy. It has to be very practical. Other day I had gone to buy a mask and it was very expensive, 3 or 4 times the regular mask. मैंने कहा इतना महंगा क्यों है? कहना सर ये डिजाइनर मास्क है. तो मैंने कहा डिजाइनर में चाहिए, वर्केबल चाहिए, लेयर कितनी है इसके अंदर, 3 है 4. वो कह रहे नहीं वो तो मेरे को मालूम नहीं है. तो मैंने कहा वो ऊपर लिखा होना चाहिए कि कितनी लेयर का है. चलिए, राइट, थैंक यू वेरी मच. सो नाउ डॉक्टर सरना साहब, you are listening me. We will go to Dr. Sarna, and meanwhile there are 7 or 8 questions and question within the question. So 7 is equal to about 15 to 20 questions. May I request the panelists to go through the question, and there is a provision to answer live also. You can type the answer there itself. Still some questions are left. We will take on air also. And 1 or 2 persons have raised the hand. I will request them to log in their question in the Q&A panel only. over to Dr. Sarna, sir. Right.
Namaskar, sir. Thank you to all. I'll start with a small prayer.
Yes, right.
Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Namaskar to everyone. Well, they were two very. Dr. Claire is a neighbor. I live in Shivalik. He's a very illuminated personality, a well-known doctor. And Dr. Jham also spoke so eloquently. I'm from a different subject. My subject is Ayurveda. So it looks very unscientific to the modern medicine world. But I'll share a few concepts and how I'll briefly touch how I became an Ayurveda doctor, Vaidya. 32 years back, I was confined to bed with paralysis. I couldn't move. To go to the toilet, can you hear me? All of you?
Yes. Loud and clear.
32 years back, I became confined because I was given an epidural injection in my spine, and that reacted, and I became bedridden and paralytic. And for 1 year, I was on steroids and painkillers. And so that time the spinal surgery as an option, it was still in the very preliminary phase in India. So someone took me to a Himalayan saint, and with the help of Ayurveda, he cured me. I was up and running in a week's time. And I took the medicine for a month and a half. And as an expression of my gratitude, I started visiting that Himalayan master very often. So I started spending a lot of time, and 25 years I spent with him. So while Munshi Premchand ji कहते थे ना कि कालक की कोठरी में जाए तो कालक लागे लागे. So when you spend time with good learned people, that because I am not learned, the rubber from the process of osmosis from my teacher, I learned the knowledge. So I am a Vaid, basically Vaidya from the Guru Shishya Parampara. And around roughly 15 to 16 years back, my master blessed me. He said, because my time to leave this world is coming. So what you do, you start giving people medicine and serve them. And I've been treating people with free medicine and few free cures in the last 15, 16 years. Right. And with the blessings of my master, close to 1 lakh people I have cured, directly, indirectly. And I'll just share a few thoughts on Ayurveda. And especially, immunity has become the buzzword in the last 6 months. So, and the interrelation between the Ayurveda and immunity. But to understand Ayurveda, I'll just share what does Ayur mean and what does Veda mean. Ayur means life, Veda means body of knowledge. So the body of knowledge which educates you and illuminates you how to live your life properly is Ayurveda. It's just not medicines. It's not just herbal medicines or pudiya or some concoction. No. That's a very small part of the Ayurveda. Basically, the Ayurveda is there to promote human happiness, peace, harmony, living. In fact, till 200 years back, the entire world was Ayurveda. The entire world was herbal. The modern medicine came with the advent of industrial revolution, technology taking over, chemistry and biology taking over, modern medicine coming. And this is how the modern medicine came about. But till such time, the entire world was on the herbal medicine. And in fact, today also, if you look at the animal world, when they live in nature, in harmony with nature, they don't need medicine.
Yeah, right.
Animals are so intelligent, they know when not to eat food, when to eat food, when they will eat only when they're hungry. They will go for the kill, or they'll eat a grass or some vegetable or whatever, vegetation, only when they're hungry. That's what. And the animal world has a beautiful knowledge of healing itself. It knows when to breathe from the right nostril, when to breathe from the left nostril. They have the science. The nature has given them, the cosmic intelligence has given them. And I'll share a small incident with you. In Banaras, monkeys have created a havoc.
Okay.
So one person, he decided to offer kheer to monkeys with poison. So monkeys thronged in, he left in a lot of vessels, a lot of kheer on his terrace. The monkeys came they didn't eat the kheer.
Okay.
They went somewhere, came back sometime later, ate that kheer.
Okay.
And then nothing happened to the monkeys.
Hmm. Hmm.
So this gentleman, he started thinking what happened. So he, experimented this for the week.
All right.
So he used to leave the kheer, monkeys used to come back and eat the kheer again.
Yeah.
A week later, he followed the monkeys.
Yeah.
So what monkeys used to go, they used to go to a tree, eat that fruit and come back and eat the kheer. That particular fruit actually it eradicated or nullified the effect of the poison.
Very good.
So this is the knowledge the animal world has. So the human knowledge was also there to live in harmony with the nature. What has happened over the years and centuries, the mankind, the humanity, individual has gone away from the nature. I see Dr. Clare spending 2 hours every day in the nature. He walks every day in the morning in Vijay Mandal Park. He's a very fit person. God bless him. So he knows as a doctor, he understands holistically why he spends time with the nature. And traditionally, the principle of Ayurveda is that within 5 kilometers of your existence, there is a cure.
Okay.
But the point is, there's no nature in even 50 meters of existence, leave alone 5 kilometers. So there's no cure today. And we have to understand Ayurveda, the concepts of Ayurveda, we need to go back to understand where we exist in this earth. We don't live in isolation. This planet is a holistic existence. So we're living in this cosmos. This entire world is affecting us. Like we are humanity, like the drop of the ocean has the attributes of the ocean. Once it merges with the ocean, it is the ocean.
Right.
It knows the drop knows how to live in harmony with the ocean.
Right.
The humanity has lost touch with its own self. So it's not able to live in the existence is I'm different because of the ego, because of our thought process, we are different from the nature. So, and that's where all the disturbances come from. And if you look at the nature and the human body, scientifically, Dr. Clare and Dr. Jambil validated 70%, nearly 70% we are water. The earth is 70% water. And the remaining minerals and whatever there is in the earth, what is there in the microcosm is there in the microcosm. Like the iron is in abundance, iron is there in abundance in our body. So whatever is there in this nature is there in the calcium is there in abundance. A lot of weight is the calcium in our body. So whatever is there in the microcosm is there in the microcosm. It's just the microcosm has forgotten to live in harmony with the macrocosm. So now we come to what my teacher taught me, and I also understand later I read the Charak Samhita, that the disease is first manifested in the mind. What we think that this body has a mind, but whereas this mind has his body. So if we start understanding and going back that what mind is, we'll be able to understand our body. The problem is we don't understand our own mind. We don't have the awareness and the consciousness of who we are. And what has happened, the mind has taken over our own existence for who we are. Like Maharshi Charak in Charak Samhita, he writes, he said that disease is born in a body the moment you think ill will of someone. The moment intent is there to hurt someone. The moment you have a violent thought for somebody else, you may not do an action. But the thought of violence or harming the other person or an animal or any life, it is a seed. That moment the seed for a disease is basically there is sown. So basically what we need to understand is to understand ourselves, who we are. That's what the science of Ayurveda is. The medicine is a very small part of the Ayurveda. When Ram was facing turbulence in his mind, Vasishtha ji told him, before Patanjali wrote the Ashtanga Sutras, Vasishtha told Ram that the practice Yama to understand your own self. He said, what is Yama? Yama is the practice of acceptance of this moment as a universal reality. What happens with us human beings? That the moment anything which is not any thought, we are creating incessant thoughts in the mind. any thought which is obstructed, either we get depression or we get anger. He said, Ram, the moment you practice Yama, out of the womb of acceptance, peace is born. And out of the womb of peace, harmony and happiness is born. Most of the times we are struggling with the moment. Like very well said by the two earlier speakers, that about the fear, about mind, everything. In the times of COVID, what happens is a universal consciousness which is created. There is anxiety, there is stress. And human nature, when there is a universe, there is happiness in one soul, it radiates happiness in the world. The anxiety, it further creates the vibrations of anxiety. And to understand it further, what I have done in the last few years is try to understand what mind is all about. It will bring to my dear friends that most of the time the mind is actually in a state of, it is producing, what it is doing if the self is producing incessant, incoherent thoughts. It is in an active or hyperactive state. It is planning, plotting, arguing, winning, losing, dreaming, expecting. It is always in this state, by and large. I have spoken to more than 15,000 people. They confirm that the most of the times, it is their mind is in a continuous state of chatter, trying to resolve too many things at one time. And all this, when we are doing it, this particular phenomena of plotting, of passing judgment, and it's largely just look at your mind, is passing a judgment, it is thinking ill will, it is imagining and dreaming, it is trying to control a situation which cannot control, it is seeking sensual pleasure or intellectual pleasure or emotional gratification. It is always seeking, it is desiring something, not realizing what it is desiring. So very often and sometimes, either the mind is in the state of complaining also. We complain too often. People have everything, still they are complaining. So all these states of minds, what they happen, that three things happen to us. First state is with all these kinds of thoughts in the mind, either we are complaining, or if you're not complaining, what we are doing with ourselves is we resign to a situation. We don't accept a situation. The third is that the learned people with the self-awareness, they have gratitude to the situation. Once you have the gratitude to a situation, what it does is that it relieves you of all the stress and fear. The thankfulness state of gratitude for everything, whatever you're getting or not getting. Once that happens, I don't have to tell anyone that who will have the best immunity. The person who's living in a state of gratitude and who has got basically peace and harmony, his immunity will be better. Because if you understand human existence is a mix, is a combination of matter as well as energy. When we think, every cell in our body is resonating and vibrating. Every cell in our body is resonating. Sometimes we meet a person, we feel relaxed and happy without any reason. He has not given us anything. And sometimes a person we meet, he is agitated from inside. He may look calm outside, but after he goes away, we feel uska saal ka chit shant nahi tha yaar. It happens to all of us. जैसे कहते हैं ना, कोयल कुछ दे नहीं देती, कौवा कुछ ले नहीं देता. Some people we meet, they create happiness. Some people they create, when they leave, they create or doing. It creates an aura of energy around us. That aura of energy, it creates a healthy, good health or a bad health for us. A person, a lot of people, you will hear these days, oh, this man was running 5 kilometers a day, he was gymming, he was playing tennis, and all of a sudden, 45, he was zoom, boom, gone. You hear so often. He may be doing exercises, he may be have a very disciplined life physically, but man, a human being is just not a physical dimension. Ladies in their mid-age, they start getting too much of UTI infections, other kinds. Some people get a lot of chest infections because of these reasons of that their immunity is not good from genetically. According to Ayurveda, there are 3 kinds of immunity a system has. One kind of immunity, 3 pillars of immunity. One comes, which is called the Sahaj Bala. Second is the Kalash, RH. the times we're living in, the seasons, all these affect our immunity. The third is the Yukrit Bala, which means that disciplined life you lead, both at the level of physical discipline, intellectual discipline, emotional discipline. So these three things, they make a pillar for good immunity system for an individual. But for that to happen, a human being must be leading a total, absolute discipline and proper holistic life from the physical dimension, from the intellectual dimension, from the emotional dimension, and as well as from the spiritual dimension. Because sometimes what happens, you may have all these three, physical, intellectual, as well as emotional, but your spiritual dimension is weak, so it can actually hamper the other three dimensional states. The spiritual dimension you can seek from it. Maybe you can seek from a teacher. You can read books. You can there are a lot of ways to do it, which we all know: Prithvi, Jal, Akash, Agni, Vayu. So Vat comes as a system of energy. Actually, it is the kinetic system of energy in our body. It comes from Vayu and Akash, from the ether. And all the movements in the body, voluntary, involuntary, whether it is of the muscular movement or the food which goes inside, blinking of an eye, excretion from the body, all these movements, they come from the kinetic energy, which is the Vata system. The second system is the Pitta. Pitta is the thermal energy of system of the body. Because you need acids secreted when the food has to be digested of the body, which helps the food to be digested, and all the glandular system, the hormones, then body are controlled by Pitta. The third dimension is the Kapha. That is the potential energy system of the body. It comes. There are two elements which make Kapha are Jal and Prithvi. It is the bioadhesive of the body. The entire body is put to form into shape by the Kapha system. So what happens that these three energies, whenever they come under stress, the stress could be physical, could be intellectual, or could be emotional stress. Whenever these energy systems, they come under a stress, a disease is born in a body. And there are these three energy systems, there are three emotional, intellectual, and spiritual systems. The first one is Sattva. People who lead unselfish lives, who think good of others, who have positivity, who have discipline in their life, who think holistically, who think all are one. They are sattvic intellect. The people who are always active, always on the run, wanting to do something, desiring too much of action, is called Rajas. The third system is of the intellectual existence is Tamas. It is people, lazy people, inertia, who are always, thinking wrong, harming other people. Jisko asur shakti bolte hai, Rakshas, Danav. They are tamasic people. So people, I don't have to, educate anyone. The sattvic people always fall less ill. Largely, the problems are caused in the Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, these three energy systems, by Rajas and Tamas, by negative thoughts, or by too much active, mentally active. These are in fact, Dr. Claire will validate that people who think too much, who are very aggressive and, always thinking too much, using their mind too much, they create stress for themselves. Their cardiac health does get affected. It's not on the cardiac health. The entire body is all one. The science has enumerated that there's a heart, there's a kidney, there's a liver. But a human body is a complex scientific tool. It is the most sophisticated technology in the world till today. So which gets affected by our thinking process.
Right.
So
Thank you,
the
Doctor.
Ayurveda, the best tool is to first of all is to think who you are, become aware of existence, and discipline your mind. The moment you start harboring positive, holistic, when you think good of others, your good will happen. When you harbor and nurture such positive thoughts, it leads to a healthier immunity and healthier body.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.
We will have to come back for a specialized session on that. And technology is playing with us, and that mandates that we need a 5G technology now at the earliest. No, okay. And you rightly said that good food and daily exercise and the good sound sleep, along with your leisure time, will make everybody mind at ease. And everything begins in the mind, and all ailments are in the mind. Yes, mind. And I read somewhere when you are doing gratis, or when you are doing kind to others, your mind generates oxytocin, and that oxytocin keeps the body healthy, fit, and competent to fight the ailments.
But Dr. Sarna has said a lot of things are very, very valuable. See, there are two things which, there are two natural things which make a person happy. One is the exercise, because exercise produces endorphins in the brain, and they are antidepressant. They are mood lifters, and these are chemical substances which, keep the brain happy and the human being happy. So exercise is very important. The second thing which he said is very, very important, that when you do something for others, particularly when you do something for others who are not related to you even, whom you don't know, there is a chemical substance released in the body from the brain, which I am not able to remember at this stage. Maybe some neurologists will know. That also is a very, very good for the human mind, to give satisfaction, to give happiness, real happiness, and mood elevator to people. So I agree with him that when you do something without selfless service to others, always helps the individuals. It gives you happiness. There's no doubt.
So we can attempt to one or two questions. One question which is repeatedly coming is that how long antibodies remain in the body after recovery?
See, there is no clear answer to that so far.
Right.
But it is possible. Most of the thinking is that it will be there from 6 months to 1 year. But the antibodies may not last forever. But I think still we have to get a lot of information regarding the immune response to the corona disease, because it is new disease and we are learning all about it.
Right. Thank you.
Dr. Dham has anything to add on to that?
Yeah, I just agree, but maybe 1 year is too long. But various studies have shown maybe from 4 to 6 months. But how much these antibodies which are formed are effective in preventing the reinfection, and whether reinfection is more dangerous, like in dengue fever, like we have a reinfection which is more dangerous. So that is also not clear. So all is in the experimental states. So commenting anything would again be a rumor or a stigma or this controversy. So usually antibodies, if we say, okay, 4 to 6 months, and usually if we get a titers before donating, that would be good if we are donating for anybody. And then the dose of plasma also depends on the titers of antibodies present in the blood of the donor.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Safwadi. Is there any particular question any panelists like to attend? Or while we will look at this, that may I invite the Aruna Madam to dwell upon the Hariom Welfare Society. Aruna Madam is there. We are already running late. Please, Hariom Welfare Society, you can throw some light so that, because you have made all the efforts to bring us together. Please carry on.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, all of you. Thank you, everyone, for joining and making this webinar a huge success. We hope all of you must have new learnings today from our senior speakers. Just a brief intro about our NGO. Hariom Welfare Society has been regularly organizing events, blood donation camps, social activities to help the senior citizens and underprivileged sections of the society. We'll be holding more such webinars where we can take up such causes. So anyone who is interested in joining us in this noble cause can mail us at hariomwelfaresociety@gmail.com, or you can always visit us at our website www.hariomwelfaresociety.org. Thank you so much, sir. I'll not take much of your time. You're already running late. So thank you so much, sir. Over to you, sir.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. And this was a very good section. This session would have not been possible without the help of everybody. And thank you everybody who made ensure that they are present and available all through the webinar. We have extended over a time. We knew that because such technical discussions, everybody has come so prepared and the audience is widespread. So we have to do justice with the subject. And then with this note, we would like to thank everybody. Thank you, Ajay Kharbanda ji, Vipin Kharbanda ji, Sunil Masta ji, and Alok Awasthi ji, Dr. Jam, Dr. Sarna, and Dr. Claire. Thank you, everybody. With the permission of the everybody, I would like to close today webinar. And whatever the questions have, technical questions we have attended, few questions which were of a different nature, which we will pass it on to the panelists. And if there are any specific replies, we will certainly pass it on. Right. Thank you very much. And we look forward to another webinar soon, and we will share the information with you. Thank you.